Okay, hello everyone. My name is Eddie. Thank you for attending this class. This is a joint class for PASM of Vancouver and also joint class of PASM Hong Kong. Today, we will concentrate on what is the difference between RAW and JPEG format photos. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to attend our class, and I hope everybody has a good weekend so far. Okay, we have a very good Saturday so far. We have a very good Saturday. We have lots of sunshine this weekend, and in Vancouver especially, I hope we can have more sunshine. Recently, I love to have more chance to go out and take more photos of eagles and other nature animals. In Hong Kong, I know we should have few days of sunshine already. I think we should have pretty warm springtime by now in Hong Kong. In Vancouver, it's still a little bit cool, about 10 degrees Celsius, so it's not too warm yet, but relatively it's a good weather in Vancouver. Okay, let's cut all the chase and we talk about what is JPEG and RAW format and when we should use them and why we should use any of them. Okay, first of all, I'd like to let you guys know most of our camera, I mean modern DSLR or mirrorless camera, we do have when we took our photos, we should have two kinds of format we can save to our system. One is called JPEG. JPEG is a very well-known format and it is very popular. You can view this photo in virtually almost any device, computer, mobile phone, TV, or anything. So this is the most popular graphical or should be photo format around the world. And then the second one, which we will go more deep today, is called RAW format. RAW format is something a bit special compared to JPEG. Each camera has its own RAW format. I should say in this way, not only each brand will be each camera. So by what we usually mean is for the camera, usually the sensor took the photos, it record all the data, each pixel, each sensors, small dots will receive all the light information, the brightness of RGB, the red, green, blue. After you record all those information in 3 sets, and then you will save it into non-compressed, non-destructive. It's like almost like everything directly to RAW format. So RAW format is a very, I should say, it's a direct conversion between the sensor and back to our storage. So the other thing is JPEG. JPEG, of course, our camera can save it as well to JPEG format. As we say, the reason why we use JPEG all the time because it's really widely acceptable in all our display device from, as we mentioned, mobile phone to TV, computer, everything. The thing why we want to talk more about RAW and JPEG today is because there are some trade-back for using JPEG, and also there are some trade-back when we're using RAW. Okay, let's talk more about JPEG format first. JPEG, there is a limit of dynamic range. Most of our camera today will have at least, I could say, 13 stop. I think 13 stop will be very, I should say, not very ideal in today's world, but many will have 14, maybe even more than 14 stop, but 13 stop will be like a very minimalistic camera. Even many situations will, at least I think, will have 12 stop. But there is a thing, it's like JPEG cannot record everything. JPEG is what we call a compressed and will lose our data's format, photo format. What it does is it will get all the raw data from the camera, and then the camera will have a chipset to compress everything based on its best algorithm and make it to a JPEG format with the least damage to your photos. What does that mean? Means even though your camera can record maybe at least 12 stops, so most of our camera can record 13, 14 stops, you will automatically, I should say, you will automatically almost say destroy at least 2 stops for your camera. So the photos in our naked eye, we will see it seems to be quite the same. Later we will show to you about the RAW and JPEG photo comparison. But the thing is, when you want to go to photo editing, it limits the probability that you can bring up the shadow or suppress the light. So because it lack of this kind of dynamic range, so it sacrifices a lot of data, a lot of details in the shadow, or a lot of detail in the bright on the white side you lost like that. Then of course there are a few more good things besides we say compatibility. The bad thing is about we lost a lot of data. And then another thing is really simple, is our workflow. So if you have set everything in your camera, you can capture the perfect photos. You don't need really a lot of adjustment. You want to just send it out to your social media right away. Most of the camera now, you can connect your camera to your phone, and then it will just send it to Instagram, Facebook, or whatever social media you like, or share with WhatsApp or any media. So JPEG is very versatile, or we could say very easy to sharing between all the platforms. Okay, then I could say beside the loose, like the quality of that, JPEG is quite good. It's really good about sharing. And also one thing I like JPEG is the file size is really small. Sometimes when our camera is not like a very high-end one that can save like 30 photos, or maybe I shouldn't say 40, but 30, or maybe just even 10 photos per second, because a lot of our camera can take at least 7 photos per second. The thing is, if your camera can take such a high-speed photos, your memory card might not be able to write it so fast. Then we do need a smaller photo format to allow it to write faster to the memory card. So JPEG is a good thing because their file size is really small relatively to RAW format. Maybe RAW format will be 10 megabyte per each of them, or I think 10 is already kind of like compressed, but not in a loosey way, like not damaging way. But normally maybe 20 something megabyte to 30 something megabyte. But JPEG may be just 1 megabyte. So if you factor that in many photos, even you can save a lot of storage in your computer and your NAS or whatever service you use for storing all your photos. So JPEG has another edge, is because it's very small. It compresses all the files data, and then you can use it in a very efficient way. And then as long as you don't need a lot of editing, it can give you some edge of fast processing because it's very small. So let's talk about RAW format. RAW format, the first thing I like it is because it doesn't lose any detail. It doesn't lose any detail at all. You can have all the details as much as the camera can capture. The thing is, theoretically, this kind of RAW format can capture up to 16 stops of data. But as I say, our camera may be 13, 14, 15, it will be really good camera. So we still have one more stop. We haven't used it yet. Until the time, maybe the camera can have 17 stops or more. So RAW format will be sufficient enough. And I do believe as the camera progresses, the sensor progresses and everything, camera manufacturer will have their own unique RAW format, can support more than 16 stop. Right now, they'll concentrate mostly about 16 stop format. But of course, we don't need to worry too much because RAW format capture every dynamic range of what your camera can produce. Okay, so quality is the thing that it does the best. Okay, the second thing I could think of is really good is it also didn't have any editing by the camera. The camera will try its best just to get every details to the data. So it didn't do much denoise, or some camera factory will not do any denoise at all. It will not correct your lens. Okay, so later on when we see the comparison JPEG and RAW, you will see there is obviously what we call the lens correction in the JPEG, but not in the RAW. So this is something we have to remember. JPEG, the camera does everything, and so then we don't have to do it afterward. So besides capture every single perfect details, I could say, from your camera, the thing is, it has a very big drawback about it cannot work really fast. Imagine if you like press your shutter like continuously and you have try to capture as much photo as possible with like nowadays like Canon R5 or Sony A1, I should say, yeah, the A1, the newest model, 20 frames per second, 20 frames per second, which each of them with RAW format. You do need to have a very fast memory card to write all the data inside to it, okay? You can't just buy any cheap memory card and then plug it in and think, why my camera can't record so much data? Might be you may be able to do it, but then the problem is when it fill up all the buffer, then it's gone. You have to wait till it write back to your memory card, and meanwhile your camera might not be able to take any more photos. In the old time, like I use a slow memory card, I will have to wait maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds. Someone using A9 camera from Sony, they said they have to wait quite a long time to write back everything, because back then the memory card's write speed is not so fast. They might have that standard, but not many people will try to use it because it's too expensive. So the one of the major drawback is because the file size is too big, it captures too much things. It's just not fast enough. If you are doing some sport events, and then you might run into some trouble about not writing fast enough to your memory card. And then there's another thing, it's about the workflow. If you have tons of photos, you want to just import to your computer, okay? I don't even need to mention it wastes a lot, I shouldn't say waste, but it just use up a lot of capacity of your hard drive or your M.2 very fast SSD. So then you have to go through them, and it's slow because each of them are quite big, and then you can feel if you have hundreds of them, you have to go through all of them, especially if you are doing bird photography, then you have to spend more time to fine-tune and edit and load it in, so it's a headache. So in conclusion, I should say the balance of these two is like JPEG is a small file format. You can use it to share everywhere, and then it's very, very small, save up a lot of your hard drive space. I know a lot of people will say this is useless or meaningless. Today's storage space is almost like costs nothing, right? And then RAW format costs a lot of time, and I would say a lot of edit time, and also you have to counter in about the storage space and everything. But people say if you take few good photos, you just edit few of them. You don't need to edit all of them. And then this comes the major drawback about the RAW format. RAW format can't be shared between easily, I should say, can't share easily between Facebook, WhatsApp, or any other social media. It's a proprietary format. Sometimes it's so bad that even a new camera come out, maybe Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom don't even have their own, I should say, they plugged in to read that file format. So you have to wait, okay, maybe 1 month, few months before it's really terrible. Like really 3 months to 6 months is really terrible. Now it's way better, maybe 1 month before you have the actual RAW format reader or plugin, and you can read it in Lightroom or Photoshop. Of course, you might say some camera factory, they have what they call a RAW format converter. You can use that and convert the format to JPEG. No, that means you destroy the photo, right? Again, so you have to export it to another format called DNG, or another format called TIFF. This two format is also very traditional, like there's no compression, and I should say there's no loss in the picture format. But the thing is, it's also very big. So if I don't have the proper plugin for Lightroom or your photo editing software, you have to use your camera manufacturer software in your computer and export everything to DNG or TIFF to edit in Photoshop or Lightroom or other software. So this is a pain in our ass, I could say, and it costs a lot of time. And also you might need a lot of storage if you really want to do all of them. But I would suggest try not to do all of them. Really pick up the one that you like and spend more time on editing them. So the difference about RAW is about if you can fine-tune the photos details. If sometimes you want to take the photos, you want to do it in the later time, you want to fine-tune everything, also take the RAW format. Okay. I will explain in more detail about my own preference and how to do it, and then it's just a reference for you. It might not be very, I should say, may not be everybody will agree to me. Even I have a lot of friends, and they argue about which one is better and why I'm doing that, why they're doing that. Everybody has their own reason. But I do believe that sometimes I'm a little bit lazy. So I want to save some of my time. I don't want to spend too much time to work on everything. So when I will use JPEG, if I know I will share my photos on social media right away, I don't need a heavy editing. I don't need to think too much about bringing the shadow back or suppress the bright side. I just want to enjoy the day, take the photos and boom, and send it to social media, or even sometimes maybe just share like group photos, family photos, and sharing it ASAP to all friends. Then JPEG is a good choice. We do need to compete with mobile phone, do we? Yeah, we do. Okay, so we have to compete with mobile phone. We need to do it really fast, because nowadays mobile phone can take also very great photos. So we do need to make sure we don't spend too much time to compete with mobile phone. Okay, and also the second thing, as I mentioned before, if I will take a lot of how should I say? Sorry. If I do take a lot of photos in a row, like a fast situation, like a sporting event, I might choose JPEG instead of RAW. For one thing is JPEG can allow us to sharing the photos much faster, and also it can save to the memory card way faster. So I tend not to miss any moment. I'm a little bit lucky because my EOS R, the first gen of EOS R, is the shutter speed is, I should say, the continuous capturing speed is so slow. It's like 5 to 6 frames per second. So I literally don't matter for me to continuous press, and it can save RAW and JPEG all the time. It doesn't fill up the buffer at all. I could say it's almost like like that. But then if you have a like 7 frames per second camera, even a lot of mid-grade now can have 7 frames per second now, you'll find that I do need to make sure that I have enough white speed, or I might not be able to take the RAW format with JPEG together. So I will tend to just take the JPEG. If I need to sharing it automatically or very fast or everything, then this is the reason why I will use JPEG. And then when I will use RAW, if I want to go out and take some scenery, and that is like a primary photo walk or something, I do need to make sure I capture every details, and I can bring it back into Photoshop or Lightroom to edit them later on then. So this is one of the things that I will choose, and I think when those time, RAW format will be very good. But for me, even if I'm not writing just RAW. I will just also writing the JPEG and RAW together. For one thing is I like to share to Facebook or Instagram immediately. So I took the photos and then I send the JPEG to my phone and then just a little bit edit and then I will just post it into Facebook or Instagram. So it's way faster in that way. Of course, my phone can do the RAW convert to JPEG because the Canon has a mobile software, but then it just costs too much time, and especially when you try to transfer all those photos by wireless, by Wi-Fi to your phone, you will understand this is really slow, and all those files takes tons of time and a lot of storage on your phone, and your phone is not unlimited storage. So then that is a big drawback. Okay, basically I explained the reason why to use this tool, and now we switch to some samples, and then I let you guys see the difference between these two, and then hopefully you can have a better understanding. Okay, so the first photos, I have already import everything to Lightroom, and as a tips, the Lightroom will not import if those two files the RAW and the JPEG is the same name, just the extension is different. Lightroom will automatically think they were the same files. Okay, it will not import it at all. So you have to make sure that in my case I rename it with a little bit different. This one with the Eyes of Hong Kong, and you see CR2 here, and then the other one I name it to oh, sorry, it's a little bit slow. Yep. Okay, you can see it's named J_J.jpg. Okay, let's concentrate on these two photos a little bit closely. The first thing I want to talk about is the perspective or the lens correction. These two photos should be identical, but in my camera setting, I switch on what we call the lens correction. This is especially useful for JPEG. So if you take JPEG photos, remember to enable this kind of what we call the lens correction. The reason why is you don't, as I say, we want to do everything really fast. So we ask the camera to do everything. Okay, the workflow is camera, mobile phone, and boom, internet. Okay, to Facebook or Instagram. So as you see here, okay, we look at the color, and then this one. The color is a little bit different. You can see, right? And I bring up a more obvious one. Maybe I bring this one up. This one. Oh, I think I do need to check which lens I'm using. This one should be. Nope. Okay. Somehow this two is very close. Let me bring up one which is very obvious. No, sorry, my bad. Okay, this two should be more obvious. Okay, let's see. Yep. Okay, this is what we call the RAW format. It's captured by EOS R, and the thing is, it has you can see here. We try to remember the leaf, okay, and the overall perspective. And then when you press the I press the 18 you can feel the whole photo has a little bit correction. It make the center point to debarrel a little bit. Okay, and this is the thing, when you take the RAW and JPEG together, the JPEG one is always has the lens correction. The few before, I might not enable the lens correction for those, but this one is definitely I have enabled the lens correction in JPEG format. So as I say, if you want to share the photo right away, you can see this one is bright enough, it's rich, color is saturated enough. Those blue area are just simply because it's too dark. At this moment, it tends to be almost like you lost all the data. And then this one is the RAW format. The color is not so saturated, and also it didn't do the debarrel. And then we can do the calibration. Oh, sorry, I mean lens correction. So there's a good thing for Lightroom. It has almost all the lens and in their database. You can see here, Canon, everything, Canon EOS EF 24 to 105. And now if we press on 18th, you can see it's really close to each other. Maybe a little bit, but you can see it's already did the lens correction. Of course, you can continue to do the distortion or vignetting and everything. The thing is, if you work in RAW, make sure that you might have to do this lens correction for RAW format. For JPEG, it should be always done within the camera. But as I say, if your camera you didn't set the camera to be lens correction or do any lens correction, then you have to do it again in as well in Lightroom or Photoshop. Okay, now let me show you about the dynamic range. Okay, here is the histogram. As you can see, even these two photos, I didn't touch on any photo editing. The JPEG one has more blue area. The blue area means I lost the dark data. And the red one, the sun, is like it's too bright. It doesn't have any details. So, for example, in this case, if I change the dark area or the black area, I can bring up the shadow. And then I can bring up this shadow. And you can see almost even the flower here relative to before. It's like, yeah, nothing. Okay, even I don't tune it like by myself. I asked it to tune by Octo. It did an okay job, but I will say, if you really want to bring back the what we call the shadow, you can really do it. And as you can see, it has all the flowers and everything in here. Okay, and for the sun, the white part, I can bring it down to show back the sun here. And then, but of course, the sun days, based on the lens, it can't capture any dark spot of the sun. Okay, this is the same photos. For one thing, I can copy all the data, all the lens correction and everything, and try to paste it in here. But for one thing I shouldn't do, I shouldn't copy the lens correction. Let me do it one more time. So lens correction, transform, effect, calibration, noise reduction. Since we haven't did any noise reduction, so it's okay. And then if we paste it in here, paste setting. Yup, it's a little bit slow. Okay, it's not working here. Why it's not working? Copy. Okay, sharp exposure, copy, and again, paste setting here. If not, I will just do manually. Paste setting, yeah, it's pasting. Okay. Okay, voila, it's done. So if you check here, the flower, and here the grass, and this one, you can definitely see the difference. You can see the roof here of another house and flower, all the details here, right? And then if you check this one, you can guess, or you can say, how about if we bring back more shadow? Yep, if you bring more shadow back, you can have more details, but you can see the flower definitely is not as vivid as the raw format. Relatively to, this is the raw, and that is the JPEG. You can see the JPEG format is a little bit, the color is a little bit dull. So, but that's not it. Okay, if you look closely to, this is another roof behind the tree. Basically, I can say it's almost like no detail here. It's just a batch of gray color. And then we check on 17, the raw format. You have a little bit pattern here. It's not really clear, but at least you have something. And the tree here, you still see a little bit texture. And for JPEG, it's almost nothing. And you can see some artifact here. So this is the thing, what we call the loose, like a loosey compression. It really lost a lot of details. If you want to bring back the what we call the shadow part or the bright part, it simply cannot do. There's a limit. And then for the raw format, you will be able to do a lot more. And of course, I didn't do the denoise. You can use the denoise and remove some of the noise, and get more details for your photos. Okay, this, if we zoom out, it is not so bad. Okay, but I think you can still see the difference. Although this one you say, oh, it's not the color is not saturated enough, then actually you can just say I add back. This is maybe too much. I add back the saturation to make it more vivid. But even though it's without this kind of saturation, you already see the details. So this is for one thing. And then this is another thing, which is like an indoor situation. This is S-shot. This is the raw format. And this is the JPEG format. You can see the JPEG, this part is quite dark. Okay, but if you take this kind of photos, normally you want to light up the whole room, everything. You want to light up everything. The thing is, sometimes you might not be able to do it. They might not have enough light. So one trick is you just take the photos and then try to, improve, like light up the shadow part and the back part. You see I'm doing like a very extremely into the other section. Okay, normally we shouldn't do it like that. And the white part, I want to show, these few photos are quite extreme. I want to show to you that what you can do. I will try to reduce this fluorescent light brightness a little bit more. Add in a little bit exposure, maybe a little bit more contrast. Okay, so I have the back side, which is relatively lit up. It's not too bad. As I say, we copy the same setting. Copy setting without the lens correction. Okay, copy everything, and then we paste to the JPEG file. Even here in JPEG file, it's already too bright for this wall. Even it's just outside the, and also here it's too bright. So at the first scan, it's not too bad. But if you see closely at the center part, you can see tons of noise here and here, and you can say, well, how about the raw format then? Okay, let's check on the raw format. It's not as good or as clean as what we want. We still have a lot of noise, even actually everywhere. But relatively, this one is still more presentable. We don't have strange color like green or sudden red. This one is red, greenish, random colors. So you can try to denoise it, but basically it doesn't have any more details. So it just randomly guess or try to amplify the value, to multiply the value to more appealing in our eyes. But it's just not that great. So in this kind of situation, I will suggest you to take like a RAW and JPEG format together, and using this technique to lighten up the shadow, maybe suppress the highlight a little bit more, or the white color a little bit more. Yeah, to give it a more natural looking for the whole photo, and people will think that everything is lightened up. But of course, the original one is this. Okay, it's this. That area is pitch black. There's no light, and we just use the photo, like the Lightroom, to lighten up that area. I don't even bring my light or anything to that apartment to do these photos. And one thing is like, if you have light in those areas, you can definitely bring back way better quality. But this is one of the extreme situations, and even the sink and everything, if I do it like undo reset, and you can see the sink here, everything, it looks much more pleasant. People will be feeling happy, especially for real estate photos. They like to see photo really bright. So this is one of the technique to take photos and tune up the shadow and everything without changing to the this very strange photos. You can see, even I don't zoom in, you can see the artifact here because the original one is way too dark. Okay, let's see a few more. This one, I like to show this one. This one is last year, Vancouver, we have a sakura blooming about April time. So we might have some sakura in Vancouver blooming very soon. As you can see, the sky is very bright. The tree is too dark. I would like to bring back the shadow, so at least I can see some of the tree, the details of the tree trunk, as you can see. And the sky is way too bright, so I can tune it down. I really do need to make sure the bright sky is there. Even you can see even the sun is here. You can still see all the color details here, and then the crowd and everything. You can see all the crowd's details. If you can see in here, it's way better. And for the JPEG one, I'm not saying it cannot be done because actually when I first start off in the photo editing, because back then my computer is not very fast. Today, because I'm doing a streaming and everything, it's quite taxing in for my computer, so it's kind of slow. But you can see in the beginning of my photo editing, I use a JPEG, and I realized a lot of problems because I'm completely lack of details. Computer cannot guess so many things. So basically, so far the tree trunk, if I didn't zoom in, it seems very similar. And I try to lower, and you see here, there's no detail for me to bring back here, this part. It's just gone. Okay, if I relatively compare to this one, you can definitely see here. Still there's several dynamic range in here. This is the thing that I try to explain, because JPEG compressed, it lost just way too much dynamic range, and it will have this kind of problem. And sometimes when we do like wildlife photography, I do want to show to you guys. For this one, it's a bird I took, I think 2-3 weeks ago. This is left hand side, is right hand side here. On our left hand side, it's a little bit dark. So because it's a wildlife, I can't ask it to repose itself, and I can't ask the sun to change direction or change the light, or I grab a reflector to do it. The ideal way, I just tune this part up a little bit. Suppress the highlight a little bit. Okay, so even now you can see the birds left and right side is not so much indifferent. Of course, you can still see a very hard shadow, but it's not like before. This is like before. Before, this part is way darker, and then when we added it, you can see it's way better. And then of course maybe I can tune down a little bit of overall exposure and add in a little bit the contrast to make sure the dark and the bright part can separate a little bit better. So this is another thing for taking for wildlife. It's an ideal thing if you can take raw format and then you bring back the best out of them and just edit the best, those best one. And then, as I say, bring back the shadow, or I should say lower the highlight a little bit to make it the whole thing to be more balanced. Can I do it with a JPEG? You can. You can do it, because sometimes in wildlife photography you do need to have a very fast shutter speed and everything. But unfortunately, you might lose a lot of what we call the details to work on. Oopsie, develop setting, copy paste setting. For this one, because it's not like I should say it's quite proper. I can't say it's really good properly, or I can't say I'm a very good. I would say the color is okay, the exposure is okay, and if JPEG is done right, you can see the shadow and everything is still okay. You know, for all. If you ask me, the thing is for these photos, this specific photos, I just added in raw format. This is to edit in a JPEG, I could say it's probable, it's okay, because this photo didn't use a lot of, I could say I didn't have too big contrast, and I don't need it to save like almost 2 stops of light. It's okay. You can use JPEG to do it. And as I say, that's why in the very early of my photo experience, I use a JPEG because I know it's not too really bad if I took the photos, expose everything quite correctly, okay, like this one, I still be able to bring back the shadow and everything. So this one, if you do everything correct, it's okay. But as I say, because RAW has more dynamic stop, so you can, like in this one, in the indoor environment, you can definitely help you out when something that you cannot do a proper exposure. This one, actually, the sunset one, actually originally I want to do is more like a shadow cut, or like a shadow for everything. I purposely darken everything. So this is why it's very hard to have the JPEG to bring back the darkened part. The thing is, if you want to ensure all those photos to be able to do all this editing very effectively, remember to use RAW format. Okay, it's just simply as that. Like this one, I can ask it to automatically calculate the tone exposure. It will do a decent job. It might not be what I would like. Okay, it's definitely not I would like, but this is at least it did a decent job. It's not too bad. So in conclusion, it's like, first of all, when we want to speed up our workflow, we can use JPEG. This is, some people might think if you use JPEG, then you lose a lot of details. But as you can see in our bird photos, you realize that it didn't hurt so much. Okay, if you expose your photo kind of correct, okay, or I should say quite correctly, okay, everything should be okay. You have a lot of dynamic range to work on as well. Okay, although you, as I say, you lost few stops already, but it still gives you a decent photo even if you edit it. But sometimes we do need few more stops. Then I would choose RAW format and make sure I can have all the data, all the details I can edit. And also another thing for using what I say, the RAW format, because it doesn't compress, it doesn't have a very strange JPEG artifact like the one that you see in the green, red, brownish color patch at the back in the house. And yes, JPEG can do a lot of damage to your photos, but as well it can give you a very good and easier way to understand and learn how to do it. And my suggestion to all of you guys to when to use when or which one, it really sometimes depends on your equipment and how you want to export your photos. If you want to point and shoot and everything shared in Facebook or Instagram, you just will do a very minimal editing, not a lot. Actually, JPEG is a good solution. I know many people shoot RAW will yell at me, but this is actually not bad. It is a quite good solution. It's fast, it saves your time, and it provides quite a decent photos, as you see in the bird's photo, especially with a modern camera. They can compress a very good JPEG files. It doesn't, like years before, JPEG is really terrible, and they have no idea what they are doing in JPEG format. And then now JPEG really can shine a little bit more, and workflow is really fast. Then when will I use RAW format? If I do a commercial shoot out, I have time, and I need to make sure that even I screw up a little bit, the exposure a little bit is under or over, I have enough dynamic range to work on it in the later post editing. This is something that you have to remember and use the RAW format. So far for me, most of my time, even for my professional work or in commercial work, I use JPEG and RAW. If I just do something for fun, for family, or just something I don't want to waste too much time to edit in the later time, everything will be JPEG. Will I just use RAW instead of JPEG? As I say, because my camera frame per second is too low, so I can use JPEG and RAW. But for those who has a very fast frame rate for camera, that's your call. If you find you keep press a lot of shutters, and I should say if you take tons of photos in a row, like in a row, and then the buffer is not fast enough to write all the data back to the memory card, then I might suggest just use RAW. If it's even not fast enough for your memory card, maybe you don't want to buy a new memory card, then maybe try JPEG. And at the end, if you say I can buy very fast memory card and I don't care about my workflow and I do want to have the best of the best for every time, use RAW for most of the time. Okay, thank you for attending my class. I hope I can explain more in details about the JPEG and RAW formats difference, and also I show you a little bit about these two formats, what is the difference between actual when you're editing this two format and what you can expect to get out of it, and some trick that can help us when our lighting is not good enough, then we can do this trick to help us out a little bit to lighten up our photos way better than before. And I hope that people will understand why one of the reasons we use a good camera with RAW format can sometimes outperform even high dynamic range photos. Sometimes when we just compare JPEG, we might not be able to win over the mobile phone for some I should say for a lot of time. So I am trying to make all of us who own cameras or something to make sure that we are proud enough to show to others people that actually my camera can do this and your phone might not be able to do that. Okay, and thank you for attending my class, and hope to see you 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now we have another class for the composition. We will talk about the basic tool composition. I will see if our time is enough or not. If we do have enough time, we'll cover more about the composition, when to use it, how to use it, and why these two are the fundamental one that we should and we have to remember, okay, how to use it. Okay, before we really end this video, I like to remind all Hong Kong members of PASM. We do have we have a photo walk hosted by another host called Mark. It's on April 6th. Okay, and if any of you guys have not joined Hong Kong Meetup group, please do. I think this YouTube video should have a link to meetup.com. If you cannot find the link, maybe I forgot to type in the URL. Just at meetup.com, type in what we call PASM. Okay, it should have only one group called PASM in Hong Kong, also in Vancouver. Okay, thank you everybody for attending our class, and see you next time. Bye bye.